She wore the same brown coat to school pickup for 3 winters straight, yet her card never seemed to shake at the register. I assumed she was rich, or maybe just fortunate. Then I found out she'd rebuilt her whole life from zero twice. Her calm wasn't chance, it came from 10 Japanese habits that build real wealth, no big income required. One practice alone saved her almost $200 in a month, without cutting one joy from her days. If you've ever done math in your head at checkout, you already know this feeling. Comment calm below if you're ready to steal her first trick right now. Habit 1, making it work. The first habit isn't a strategy. It's a question. Before she buys anything new, she asks what's already sitting in her house, doing nothing. I watched her do this once, standing in front of an open fridge with 3 eggs, half a bag of rice, and a lonely bell pepper. 15 minutes later, dinner was on the table and her wallet hadn't moved an inch. No app. No plan. Just a habit of looking before reaching. Most of us do the reverse. The fridge feels a little bare, so we order in, spend $40, and somehow still feel unsatisfied after eating. That gap between empty enough to panic and actually empty is where a lot of money silently disappears. She calls this one making it work. I call it the cheapest skill nobody teaches. Try it once this week. Pick a single night, no store run, just what's already on your shelves. You'll feel a little annoyed the first time. By the third, you'll feel something closer to pride. Habit 2, pay yourself first. That habit alone saved her close to $200 a month. But the second habit is the one that turned $200 into something much bigger. She calls it paying herself first. And the trick isn't the amount, it's the timing. Every payday, before she sees the number, $50 leaves her account automatically. She never decided to save it twice. She decided once and then let the decision run itself. Picture 2 women starting the exact same year. One sets up that automatic transfer and forgets it exists. The other tells herself she'll save whatever's left at the end of the month. 12 months pass. The first woman has $600 and a little more calm than she started with. The second has nothing, because there's never anything left. There never is. Stretch that habit across years, not months, and the gap stops being small. $200 a month, started at $25 instead of $35, can mean a difference of nearly $100,000 by retirement, not because she earned more, but because she started sooner. The cost of waiting never shows up on a bill. That's exactly why nobody notices it happening. If the amount feels too small to matter, that's fine. $5 a week that actually leaves your account beats $500 a month you keep promising yourself for someday. Habit 3, freezing your lifestyle after a raise. Habit 3 is where things get uncomfortable, because it asks you to do the opposite of what every instinct screams at you to do the moment money increases. She got a raise once, her first real one, after years of scraping by. And every cell in her body wanted to upgrade something, anything, just to finally feel like she'd made it. Instead, she kept her whole life exactly the same for 90 days. Same rent, same groceries, same small pleasures. The entire difference between old paycheck and new one went straight into an account she didn't touch. Nobody around her noticed a thing changed. But something had. That gap between what she earned and what she spent became the space where actual wealth started to collect. Most people do the reverse. A raise lands, and within weeks, spending rises to swallow it whole. A slightly bigger apartment. A nicer car payment. A few extra subscriptions nobody remembers signing up for. Same stress, just on a higher income now. Economists have a name for it. She just calls it the trap nobody warns you about. If you want to try this, the rule is simple. The next time a raise, bonus, or windfall lands, freeze your spending exactly where it already sits for 90 days. Let the difference pile up somewhere you can't casually reach it. Habit 4, taking care of what you own that habit, protects the money you already have. But the fourth habit protects something you'd never think to put a price tag on the things sitting in your house right now. She has a way of touching ordinary objects that I noticed before I understood it. Wiping a wooden table down after dinner. Hanging a coat properly instead of tossing it on a chair. Washing one particular mug by hand every single morning like it mattered. It sounds small, maybe even a little precious. But attention has a strange side effect. Things that get cared for last. A pair of shoes polished twice a year outlives 3 cheap pairs bought without a second thought. A pan cleaned properly, the right way, survives a decade instead of 2 years. I used to replace the same $5 item over and over, never once adding up the total because each replacement felt too small to count. She doesn't have that problem, not because she buys less, but because she keeps what she already owns alive longer than most people think to try. This week, pick one thing you own and actually take care of it. Oil the hinge that's been squeaking for a year. Polish the shoes instead of eyeing new ones online. It'll feel almost silly while you're doing it. A month later, you'll simply notice you stopped replacing that thing. Habit 5, repair, replace. There's a bowl on her kitchen shelf with a crack running straight through the middle of it, filled in with gold. She didn't hide the damage. She highlighted it on purpose. It comes from an old Japanese craft repairing broken pottery with gold-dusted lacquer instead of throwing the piece away. The crack doesn't get disguised. It becomes the most striking part of the whole object. Now picture that same idea pointed at money instead of ceramics. The wobbly chair gets a tightened screw instead of a trip to the furniture store. The jeans get a patch and become the pair you reach for first. A budget that fell apart during a hard month gets rebuilt, not abandoned in shame. Most of us are trained to replace things the second they disappoint us, because replacing feels clean and fixing feels a little like admitting failure. She flipped that completely. The repair became the point. Before your next thing breaks and your first instinct is to order a new one, pause and ask one question. Can this survive a 10-minute fix instead of a full replacement? Half the time, the answer is yes, and the money stays exactly where it was. Habit 6, the 3-jar system, the 6th habit, takes that same patience and hands it to someone younger than she is. Every birthday, every holiday, the money her kids receive gets split 3 ways at the kitchen table. 1 jar for spending right away, because that's part of the fun. 1 jar for something bigger they're building toward. 1 jar nobody touches, which she matches herself, dollar for dollar. I watched her daughter's face the day she realized her untouchable jar had doubled overnight. That single moment probably taught more about money than any lesson a classroom could offer, because the child felt it happen in real time instead of hearing it explained. You don't need children in the house to use this. Take your own birthday money, a tax refund, an unexpected check, and give it the exact same 3-jar treatment. Spend a guilt-free piece of it. Move a piece towards something real. Lock a final piece away where you genuinely won't touch it. Treat the adult version of yourself the way you'd want to raise a child around money. Patient, structured. A little bit protected from your own worst impulses. Habit 7, the accountability circle. She has a friend she texts on the 1st of every month. 2 words, nothing more. Money moved. And her friend sends the same 2 words back within the hour. That's the entire system. No app, no contract, just a small standing promise between 2 people who'd feel a little embarrassed letting each other down. This comes from an old Japanese tradition, neighbours forming small savings circles, each person contributing the same amount every month. One person taking the full pot on rotation until everyone's had a turn. Long before banks were friendly to ordinary families, this is how people actually built something. The lesson underneath it has nothing to do with the money itself. It's that saving alongside someone else is far easier than saving alone in the dark. We'll skip things we only owe ourselves. We're strangely unwilling to let down a person who's counting on us. You can start this in about 30 seconds. Pick one person you trust. Agree on a small number you can both manage. Pick 1 day a month and check in the second the money moves. That's the whole system. Habit 8, free joy as a spending replacement. Habit 8 costs nothing at all, and it might be the one that saves the most. She takes her kids to the same patch of woods most weekends. No plan, no phone, no purchase of any kind. And every single time they come back lighter than they left. Think about how most of us actually reach for comfort at the end of a hard week. We scroll, we add things to a cart, we buy a small treat just to feel something shift. The receipts pile up quietly where we don't have to look at them, and most of it doesn't even make us happier once the box arrives. That walk in the woods became her family's answer to boredom before the expensive answer ever gets a chance to tempt anyone. The next time you feel that familiar itch to buy something just to feel better, try one experiment before you do. Go outside for 20 minutes with your phone left behind. More often than you'd expect, you'll come back and notice the itch has faded. Because it was never really about the thing in the cart to begin with. Habit 9, the 30-day rule. Most expensive mistakes happen fast and hot. You see something, feel a rush, and sign before the excitement has a chance to cool down. Then you spend years paying for 10 minutes of feeling good. She has a rule now. Anything over a few $100s has to survive 30 days of sitting in her mind before she's allowed to buy it. This comes from an old idea about preparing ground before moving something as delicate as a tree, loosening the soil carefully around the roots so it survives being transplanted. Applied to money, it simply means doing the patient work before any big decision, so that by the time you act, the outcome is already half decided. About half the time, she told me, the urge just evaporates on its own somewhere around day 12 or day 20. She gets to keep the money and the calm that comes with it. The other half of the time, when the want survives the full 30 days, she buys it without a shred of guilt, because by then the decision has real roots underneath it instead of just excitement. If 30 days sounds impossible, even 3 nights of sleeping on a purchase saves more over a year than any clever budgeting trick ever could. The urge to buy is always loudest in the very first hour, when it's shiny and new and whispering that you've earned it. Habit 10, contentment. The cherry blossoms in Japan bloom for barely a week before they're gone. There's a word for the feeling that comes with watching something beautiful pass quickly, a tender awareness that nothing lasts, not in a sad way, just in a true one. At first, that sounds like the opposite of money advice. The entire consumer world runs on the promise that the next purchase will finally make you happy and then keep you happy forever. But once you really start to feel how temporary